Here we have a function of f which takes one input, multiples it by 2, then add it 3 to get an output, or f of x equals to x plus 3. When we are looking for an inverse function, we are looking for the function that does the opposite to this function. So let us look at a few inputs. If we start with the 2 and multiple it by 2, we get 4, then added 3, we would get 7. If we put a 5 into the function, but multiply it by 2 to get 10 and 3 to get 13. So this is the function f. The inverse of function f will do the opposite thing. So we will start with the 7 and go back to 2. It will start with the 13 and go back to 5. So we will start with the output and go back to the input. What would we have to do to go from the output back to the input? We would have to go backwards. So the opposite of adding 3 is taking away 3. So we could take away 3, and then the opposite of x in by 2 is dividing by 2. So if we take away 3 and then divide it by 2, we would go back from the output to the input. 7 minus 3 is 4 divided by 2 is 2. 13 minus 3 is 10 divided by 2 is 5. So this is the function, the inverse function f, and we call it the inverse function. We write f with a minus 1. So f inverse of x, f inverse of x is x minus 3 over 2. We can also find the inverse function algebraically by changing the subject of the formula. So if we start with f of x equals 2x plus 3, and we rewrite it as y equals 2x plus 3. So x is the input and y is the output in an inverse function. The outputs become the inputs and the inputs become the outputs. So we can flip x and y around and write x equals 2, write plus 3. And to find the inverse function, we need to change the subject of the formula to get y by itself. So we will take 3 away from both sides. So subtract 3 from both sides. So x minus 3 equals 2, and then divided both sides by 2. So y is x minus 3 over 2, and we write that again as an f minus 1x, f inverse of x is x minus 3 over 2. Let us have look at an example of this. So we got f of x equal 3x minus 1, and we want to find f inverse of x, the inverse function, the function that does the opposite things to f. So at the moment we can say y equals 3x minus 1, and for the inverse function, the input becomes the output and the output becomes the input, or x becomes y and y becomes x. So we can flip the x and y around, switch them around, and then we are going to make y the subject of the formula. So plus 1 to both sides. So x plus 1 is the 3y, and then divided both sides by 3. So x plus 1 over 3 is y. So x plus 1 over 3 is our inverse function. We can write f inverse of x equals x plus 1 over 3 quotients 2 say find the value of f inverse of 5. We need to put 5 into our inverse formula and see what get up. F inverse of 5 is 5 plus 1 over 3. 5 plus 1 is 6, and 6 over 3 is 2. If we put 5 into our inverse function, we get 2 out. So that means if we put 2 into our original function, we would get 5 out because the inputs and the outputs are switched around. One for you to try. So give this one again. We have got f of x equals 5x plus 8. Find the inverse function at the moment y equals 5x plus 8. In the inverse function, the x are going to become the y's and the y becomes the x. So to make y the subject to the formula, let's subtract 8 from both sides and then divide both sides by 5. Our inverse function f inverse of x is x minus 8 over 5. Find the value of f inverse of negative 2. We change x to negative 2 in our inverse function. B negative 2 minus 8 over 5, which is negative 10 over 5, which negative 2. So if we put negative 2 into our inverse function, we get out negative 2, which means if we put a negative 2 into our original function, we would get out negative 2 as well. And another example with that, f of x equals x over 4 plus 3. Again, find the inverse function. At the moment, we can say y equals x over 4 plus 3. And in the inverse function, we will switch x somewhere around x will become y, and y will become x. The input becomes the out, and the output becomes the input. And then we will make y the subject in the formula. So we'll subtract 3 from both sides, take 3 away from the both sides. So x minus 3 equals y over 4. Then to get y by itself, multiply both sides by 4. 4 times x minus 3 is y. So the inverse function f inverse of x is 4 times x minus 3. We could expand the brackets. We don't have to. We can leave it there. Question to solve: f of fx equals inverse of x. Question to solve: f of x equals f inverse of x. So f of x is x over 4 plus 3, and f inverse of x is 4 times x minus 3. Let us solve this. We can start by expanding the bracket that we didn't expand before. So x over 4 plus 3 equals 4 times x is 4, x 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. So we have got a fraction. We have got divided by 4. We have got x over 4. We can get right of it by multiplying every term by 4. So I will do that now. So you must multiply every term by 4. So 3, 4, 12. 4x times 4 will be 16x, and negative 12 times 4, 3, negative 40, 48. So now I am take my smallest x away, which is 1x. Take 1x away from both sides. So 12 equals 15. X minus 48. I am plus 4, 88 to both sides. It should give me 60 equals 15x, and then divided both sides by 15 to get x by itself. So x is 4. So what does that tell us? So 4 is the value where the input and the output are the same. For you to try here, so give them again. The first one, we have got f of x equals 2 times 3x plus 1, and we are going to find the inverse function. So we are rewrite it is as y equals 2 times 3x plus 1, and for the inverse function, the x and the y are flip around, they are switch around, so x equals 2 times 3y plus 1. So now we want to make y the subject of the formula. I am expand this bracket first, so 2 times 3 away is 6y minus 1 minus 2. Now I subtract. Now I am take away 2 from both sides. So x minus 2 is 6y, and then divided both sides by 6. Y is x minus 2 over 6. So our inverse function f inverse of x is x minus 2 over 6. For the second one, g inverse of x, so g of x is 9 minus x over 2. So at the moment we can say y is 9 minus x over 2. In the inverse function, x becomes y and y becomes x, the input becomes the output and the output becomes the input, and we are make y the subject, so multiply both sides by 2. 2x equals 9 minus y. If we plus y to both sides, we will have 2x plus y equals 9, and equals 9, and then subtract 2x from both sides, so y is 9 minus 2x, or g inverse of x is 9 minus